Welcome to Wisdom and Wit.
It always seems impossible until it's done. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. There is no passion to be found playing small in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. It is better to lead from behind and to put others in front, especially when you celebrate victory when nice things occur. You take the front line when there is danger. Then people will appreciate your leadership. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. After climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. Never, never, never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. Money won't create success. The freedom to make it will. There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. To deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. What globalization means, as it so often does, that the rich and powerful now have new means to further enrich and empower themselves at the cost of the poorer and weaker. We have a responsibility to protest in the name of universal freedom. A good head and a good heart are always a formidable combination. A good leader can engage in a debate frankly and thoroughly, knowing that at the end he and the other side must be closer, and thus emerge stronger. You don't have that idea when you are arrogant, superficial, and uninformed. There is no easy walk to freedom anywhere, and many of us will have to pass through the valley of the shadow of death again and again before we reach the mountaintop of our desires. As long as poverty, injustice, and gross inequality persist in our world, none of us can truly rest. Our human compassion binds us the one to the other not in pity or patronizingly, but as human beings who have learned how to turn our common suffering into hope for the future. If you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy. Then he becomes your partner. Courageous people do not fear forgiving, for the sake of peace. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender and other discrimination. Let freedom reign. The sun never set on so glorious a human achievement. There is nothing like returning to a place that remains unchanged to find the ways in which you yourself have altered. No country can really develop unless its citizens are educated. Running taught me valuable lessons. In cross-country competition, training counted more than intrinsic ability, and I could compensate for a lack of natural aptitude with diligence and discipline. I applied this in everything I did. It is wise to persuade people to do things and make them think it was their own idea. I stand here before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people. When the water starts boiling, it is foolish to turn off the heat. Let there be work, bread, water and salt for all. Forget the past. If there are dreams about a beautiful South Africa, there are also roads that lead to their goal. Two of these roads could be named goodness and forgiveness. Any man or institution that tries to rob me of my dignity will lose. Only free men can negotiate. A prisoner cannot enter into contracts. In my country, we go to prison first and then become president. If there is a country that has committed unspeakable atrocities in the world, it is the United States of America. I should tie myself to no particular system of society other than of socialism. There is no such thing as part freedom. Unlike some politicians, I can admit to a mistake. Does anybody really think that they didn't get what they had because they didn't have the talent or the strength or the endurance or the commitment? There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile to continue talking about peace and non-violence against a government whose only reply is savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people. I dream of an Africa which is in peace with itself. In countries where innocent people are dying, the leaders are following their blood rather than their brains. There are times when a leader must move out ahead of the flock, go off in a new direction, confident that he is leading his people the right way. I detest racialism because I regard it as a barbaric thing, whether it comes from a black man or a white man. Nonviolence is a good policy when the conditions permit. I was called a terrorist yesterday, but when I came out of jail, many people embraced me, including my enemies. And that is what I normally tell other people who say those who are struggling for liberation in their country are terrorists. I have retired, but if there's anything that would kill me, it is to wake up in the morning not knowing what to do. Sometimes, I feel like one who is on the sidelines, who has missed life itself. Whatever position I occupied, It was the result of colleagues of my comrades in the movement who had decided in their wisdom to use me for the purpose of focusing the attention of the country and the international community on me. There are so many men and women who hold no distinctive positions, but whose contribution towards the development of society has been enormous. If the United States of America or Britain is having elections, they don't ask for observers from Africa or from Asia. But when we have elections, they want observers. I cannot say for certain if there is such a thing as love at first sight, but I do know that the moment I first glimpsed Winnie Namzamo, I knew that I wanted to have her as my wife. Leaders in all spheres who are living with HIV should be encouraged, not coerced, to lead by example and disclose their HIV status. Intervention only works when the people concerned seem to be keen for peace. Communists have always played an active role in the fight by colonial countries for their freedom, because the short-term objects of communism would always correspond with the long-term objects of freedom movements. Even if you have a terminal disease, you don't have to sit down and mope. Enjoy life and challenge the illness that you have. I will not leave South Africa, nor will I surrender. Only through hardship, sacrifice and militant action can freedom be won. The struggle is my life. I will continue fighting for freedom until the end of my days. Our daily deeds as ordinary South Africans must produce an actual South African reality that will reinforce humanity's belief in justice, strengthen its confidence in the nobility of the human soul, and sustain all our hopes for a glorious life for all. I was not a messiah, but an ordinary man who had become a leader because of extraordinary circumstances. If you are poor, you are not likely to live long. Let each know that for each the body, the mind and the soul have been freed to fulfill themselves. I started to make a study of the art of war and revolution, and, whilst abroad, underwent a course in military training. If there was to be guerrilla warfare, I wanted to be able to stand and fight with my people and to share the hazards of war with them. There is nothing I fear more than waking up without a program that will help me bring a little happiness to those with no resources, those who are poor, illiterate, and ridden with terminal disease. When I came to Johannesburg from the countryside, I knew nobody, but many strangers were very kind to me. I then was dragged into politics, and then, subsequently, I became a lawyer. I cannot conceive of Israel withdrawing if Arab states do not recognize Israel within secure borders. I made a mistake by being ejected from the presidency. Next time, I will choose a cabinet which will allow me to be life president. I dream of the realization of the unity of Africa, whereby its leaders combine in their efforts to solve the problems of this continent. I dream of our vast deserts, of our forests, of all our great wildernesses. Give a child love, laughter and peace, not AIDS. Our single most important challenge is therefore to help establish a social order in which the freedom of the individual will truly mean the freedom of the individual. Before I went to jail, I was active in politics as a member of South Africa's leading organization, and I was generally busy from 7 a.m. until midnight. I never had time to sit and think. I am confident that nobody will accuse me of selfishness if I ask to spend time while I am still in good health with my family, my friends, and also with myself. Apart from life, a strong constitution, and an abiding connection to the Thembu royal house, the only thing my father bestowed upon me at birth was a name, Rolilala. The education I received was a British education, in which British ideas, British culture, British institutions were automatically assumed to be superior. There was no such thing as African culture. You know, you can only lead them from behind. I can't pretend that I'm brave and that I can beat the whole world. By ancestry, I was born to rule. We can't afford to be killing one another. Sabotage did not involve loss of life, and it offered the best hope for future race relations. Bitterness would be kept to a minimum, and, if the policy bore fruit, democratic government could become a reality. I have always regarded myself, in the first place, as an African patriot. Africans require, want, the franchise on the basis of one man, one vote. They want political independence. I really wanted to retire and rest and spend more time with my children, my grandchildren, and of course with my wife. There are many people in South Africa who are rich and who can share those riches with those not so fortunate, who have not been able to conquer poverty. I have been influenced in my thinking by both West and East. Prison life. Fortunately, I spent a lot of years, about 18 years, with other prisoners, and, as I say, they enriched your soul. My son has died of AIDS.
Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, goodbye.